The notification lit up his phone at 9:47 p.m., just as he was settling into the couch with a beer. His wife's text was brief, almost casual. Working late turned into drinks. Crashing at Jen's place tonight. Don't wait up. He stared at the message, reading it 3 times. They'd been married for 8 years, and she'd never stayed out without coming home first. Not once. His thumb hovered over the keyboard, a dozen questions forming in his mind, but something held him back. Instead, he opened his contacts and scrolled to a name he rarely called, Derek, Jen's husband. They'd met at a few company events over the years, cordial nods, brief small talk about sports and weather. He'd never had Derek's number until last year's holiday party when they'd exchanged information for a potential golf outing that never materialized. His finger hesitated over the call button. Was this an overreaction? Was he being paranoid? But the text felt wrong. The timing felt wrong. His wife had mentioned nothing about after-work drinks, and she always checked in when plans changed. He pressed call. Hello. Derek's voice sounded distracted, like he was watching TV. Hey, Derek, it's Tom. We met at your wife's company parties. I'm married to Sarah. Oh, yeah, sure. What's up? Tom took a breath. This might sound strange, but Sarah just texted me saying she's crashing at your place tonight. I wanted to make sure you guys were okay with the unexpected guest, you know? I would have sent wine or something if I'd known earlier. The silence on the other end stretched too long. What? Derek's voice had changed completely. Jen's not home. She texted me 2 hours ago saying she was staying late at the office to finish a presentation. She's definitely not here. Tom's stomach dropped. Are you sure? I'm standing in my living room looking at an empty house, so yeah, I'm pretty damn sure. Derek's words came faster now. Wait, what exactly did Sarah say? She said she was crashing at Jen's place. After work drinks that ran late. Jen doesn't have a place. We live together. We've lived together for 6 years. Derek's voice rose. Where the hell are they really? Tom's mind raced. Maybe there's a misunderstanding. Maybe they're at another coworker's place and Sarah just what? Just lied about whose house she was staying at? Why would she do that? Derek was pacing now. Tom could hear his footsteps through the phone. And why would Jen lie about working late? The two men sat in their respective silences, the implications settling over them like a suffocating blanket. Tom thought about the last few months, his wife's longer hours, her new gym membership, the way she'd started putting her phone face down on tables. I'm going to call Jen, Derek said finally. I'll call you back. The line went dead. Tom sat frozen on the couch, his beer forgotten, condensation pooling on the coffee table. His phone felt heavy in his hand. He opened his wife's text again, studying every word as if it might reveal some hidden truth. The casual tone now seemed almost mocking. Don't wait up. As if she were doing him a favor, giving him permission to sleep. His phone buzzed. Derek. Straight to voicemail, Derek said without preamble. Her phone's off. Sarah's is on, but she's not answering my calls. I'm checking Jen's location history on our shared account. The sound of frantic typing. She was at the office until 7:30, then. Tom, she drove to the Riverside Hotel. She's been there for the past 2 hours. The Riverside Hotel. Not a coworker's house. Not the office. A hotel. Send me the address, Tom said, already grabbing his keys. I'm on my way. I'll meet you there, Derek replied, his voice tight with anger and something else, fear of what they were about to discover. As Tom drove through the darkening streets, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was his wife calling. He let it ring through to voicemail, then watched as 3 more calls came in rapid succession. Then the texts started. Why did you call Derek? Please don't do this. It's not what you think. I'm coming home. We need to talk. But Tom kept driving, Derek's shared location pin guiding him toward answers he wasn't sure he wanted to find. The Riverside Hotel's parking lot was half empty under the sickly yellow glow of street lamps. Tom pulled into a spot near the entrance just as another car screeched in beside him. Derek emerged, his face flushed, still wearing the sweatpants and t-shirt he'd obviously been relaxing in when Tom's call shattered his evening. "Did she call you?" Derek asked immediately. "Multiple times." "You?" "Same." I didn't answer. Derek's jaw was clenched. "Her location is still showing the hotel. 3rd floor." They stood in the parking lot, two men united by betrayal, neither quite ready to take the next step. Tom's phone buzzed again, another call from Sarah. He silenced it. "Maybe we should just go home," Tom said, though he didn't move. "Confront them when they get back. And let them coordinate their stories? Get their lies straight." Derek shook his head. "No. I need to see this with my own eyes." They walked into the lobby together, an odd pair drawing a curious glance from the night clerk. The elevator ride to the 3rd floor was silent except for the mechanical hum and their heavy breathing. Tom watched the numbers climb, 1, 2, 3, each floor taking them closer to a truth he'd been unconsciously avoiding for months. The hallway was deserted, generic watercolors on beige walls, the carpet absorbing their footsteps. Derek checked his phone. "Room 347. Down here." As they approached, Tom's phone exploded with a rapid-fire series of texts from Sarah. "Tom, please. Answer me." Derek called Jen. "She's freaking out. We're leaving. This is all a huge misunderstanding. Whatever Derek told you is wrong. I can explain everything." The messages were coming so fast he could barely read them. Derek's phone was buzzing too, lighting up his tense face in the dim hallway. "They know we're here," Derek muttered. They stopped outside room 347. Tom raised his fist to knock, but before he could, the door swung open. Jen stood there, fully dressed in her work clothes, her face pale. Behind her, Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, her head in her hands. But they weren't alone. Two men Tom had never seen before stood near the window, looking equally panicked. One was hastily buttoning his shirt. The other was on his phone, speaking in urgent, hushed tones. "It's not," Jen started, but Derek pushed past her into the room. "Not what?" Derek's voice was dangerously quiet. "Not what it looks like. Because it looks like my wife lied about working late to come to a hotel room with," he gestured at the strangers, "whoever the hell these people are." Sarah finally looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. When she saw Tom, something crumbled in her expression. "Tom, please, just listen." "Who are they?" Tom cut her off, pointing at the two men. The man on the phone lowered it slowly. "I'm Adam. This is Paul. We work with—" "We're investigators," Paul interrupted, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Private investigators. Jen and Sarah hired us 6 weeks ago." The room went silent. "What?" Derek's anger faltered, confusion replacing it. Jen stepped forward, tears streaming down her face now. "We hired them to investigate our boss, Richard. He's been embezzling from the company for years, and we finally had enough evidence to prove it. But we couldn't let anyone know what we were doing, not even you guys. It was too dangerous." Tom's mind struggled to process this. So all of this, the late nights, the secrecy, staying at a coworker's place, it was about investigating your boss. "We were building a case," Sarah said, standing up. "Richard has connections, Tom. Serious connections. If word got out that we were investigating him before we had ironclad proof, we could have lost everything. Our jobs, our reputations, maybe worse." Adam pulled out a laptop from a bag on the desk. "We've been documenting everything, fraudulent transactions, fake vendors, offshore accounts. Tonight was supposed to be our final meeting before taking everything to the FBI tomorrow morning." Derek laughed, but it was a harsh, bitter sound. "You expect us to believe this? That you were playing detective instead of—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Check the laptop," Paul said calmly. "It's all there." Tom moved to the desk, Derek beside him. Adam opened the computer and pulled up folder after folder of financial documents, photographs, recorded conversations. Months of meticulous investigation spread across the screen. Jen and Sarah's names appeared repeatedly in the notes as Client 1 and Client 2. "Why didn't you just tell us?" Tom asked, his anger dissolving into hurt. "We're your husbands. You could have trusted us." Sarah's voice broke. "We wanted to. God, Tom, every day I wanted to tell you." But Adam and Paul insisted that the fewer people who knew, the safer everyone would be. Richard has been under investigation by the FBI before. He has lawyers, connections to people who've made problems disappear. And the lie about staying at Jen's place? Derek asked, his voice smaller now. "We panicked," Jen admitted. "We had to explain why we'd be unreachable tonight during the final meeting. We didn't think," she looked at Derek helplessly, "we didn't think you'd actually check." Tom felt his legs weaken. He sat down on the edge of the bed, his head spinning. "So there's no affair. No betrayal. Just corporate espionage." "Whistleblowing," Adam corrected gently. "What they've done is incredibly brave. Stupid to lie to their families about it, but brave." Derek ran his hands through his hair, the fight draining out of him. "Jesus Christ. We thought. We know what you thought," Sarah said quietly. She moved toward Tom but stopped when he held up a hand. "I'm so sorry. The way I handled this was wrong. But Tom, we couldn't risk it. Richard Klein is dangerous." Paul closed the laptop. "For what it's worth, they wanted to tell you from the beginning. We're the ones who insisted on total secrecy. Maybe we were too cautious." Tom looked at his wife, really looked at her, and saw the exhaustion, the fear, the relief that their secret was finally out. But he also saw something else, a stranger who'd been living a double life for 6 weeks. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," Adam said, "we take this to the FBI in the morning, like planned. And you too," he nodded at Tom and Derek. "You decide if you can forgive them for trying to protect you the wrong way." The hotel room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Tom stared at the laptop screen, though he'd stopped actually reading the documents. Beside him, Derek had sunk into the desk chair, his head in his hands. The revelation that their wives weren't having affairs should have brought relief, but instead, it left them hollow, angry, confused. Sarah moved closer to Tom. "Can we talk? Alone?" "No," Tom said flatly. "Whatever you need to say, you can say it here. I'm done with secrets." Sarah flinched but nodded. "Richard Klein, our boss, he's not just embezzling. He's been systematically draining the employee pension fund. Thousands of people are going to lose their retirement savings if someone doesn't stop him. Jen and I discovered it by accident 3 months ago when we were reconciling some accounts." Jen picked up the story, her voice shaky. "We found a discrepancy. At first, we thought it was a mistake, but the more we dug, the more we realized it was intentional. Sophisticated. Richard's been doing this for at least 5 years." "So you went to the police," Derek said, his voice flat. "We tried," Jen replied. "We went to HR first. The head of HR is Richard's brother-in-law. He buried our complaint and told Richard we were asking questions. That's when things got scary." Adam leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Richard confronted them in the parking lot after work. Told them they'd misunderstood what they'd seen. Suggested that making accusations could be career-ending for them. That's when they came to us. Paul opened a different folder on the laptop. "We've documented everything since then, including Richard's attempts at intimidation." Tom watched a video play, security footage of a parking garage. He recognized Sarah's car. A man he'd seen at company events, Richard Klein, approached her driver's side window. Even without audio, his body language was threatening, leaning down, pointing. Sarah's face through the windshield showed pure fear. "He followed me home twice," Sarah said quietly. "Made sure I knew he was following me. He'd park across the street from our house and just sit there. 4 hours." Tom's blood ran cold. "When?" "Those nights I said I was going to yoga. I was actually meeting with Adam and Paul at different locations. And the nights Richard followed me, I didn't come straight home. I drove around until he left. Jesus, Sarah. Tom stood abruptly. He was stalking you and you didn't tell me. Because I knew you'd do something. Sarah's voice rose. I knew you'd confront him, and Adam said that could tip him off before we had enough evidence. We needed him to feel safe, to keep operating as normal while we built the case. Derek was reading through documents now, his face growing paler. Jen, this says he's stolen over $12 million. $12.3 million, Paul confirmed. From 427 employees' pension accounts. He's been moving money in small increments to offshore accounts, then falsifying the records to make it look like the fund's investment returns were just underperforming. Tom felt sick. And you've known about this for months. We've been gathering evidence for months, Jen corrected. There's a difference. If we'd gone to the authorities with what we had initially, Richard's lawyers would have torn it apart. We needed documentation, patterns, proof that couldn't be explained away. Adam pulled up a spreadsheet. Every transaction, cross-referenced with the official company records. We've also documented the fake vendors he created to funnel money, the shell corporations, the offshore accounts. This isn't just embezzlement, it's fraud, money laundering, and probably tax evasion. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit has been waiting for something solid on Richard Klein for years. Why? Tom asked. Why has the FBI been waiting? Because Richard's father-in-law is Senator Morrison, Paul said. He's untouchable through normal channels. We needed an airtight case. Derek's head snapped up. Senator Morrison? The guy who chairs the banking committee. The same, Adam confirmed. Which is why Sarah and Jen had to be absolutely certain before going forward. And why we insisted they tell no one, not friends, not family, not their husbands. Tom's anger was shifting, reforming into something more complex. He understood the logic, even agreed with it on some level. But the betrayal still burned. You still should have told me. You're right, Sarah said simply. You're absolutely right. I chose the wrong path. I thought I was protecting you, protecting us, but I broke your trust instead. She paused. But Tom, if I could go back, knowing what I know now about Richard's connections and his willingness to threaten people, I don't know if I'd change my decision. That's not reassuring, Tom said. It's honest, Sarah replied. Derek stood abruptly. I need air. This is, he gestured vaguely at the room, this is too much. Wait, Paul said. Before anyone leaves, we need to discuss next steps. Now that you both know, we need to make sure everyone stays safe and stays quiet for the next 12 hours. 12 hours? Tom asked. We're meeting the FBI at their field office at 9 a.m. tomorrow, Adam explained. Once we hand over this evidence, it's out of our control. Richard will be arrested, probably before lunch. But until then, if he suspects anything, he'll run, Jen finished. He has escape plans. We found evidence of a property in the Cayman Islands, accounts in Switzerland. If he gets spooked, he disappears, and all those people lose their pensions forever. Tom looked at Sarah. So we just go home and pretend everything's normal. For 12 hours, Sarah said. Then it's over. I promise. Derek laughed bitterly. 12 hours. Right. What could possibly go wrong in 12 hours? His phone rang. Everyone froze. Derek looked at the screen, his face going white. It's Richard Klein. Don't answer it, Adam said sharply. But Derek's hand was already moving toward the phone. He's calling me. He's never called me before. How does he even have my number? Derek, don't, Jen started, but it was too late. Derek answered, putting it on speaker. Hello. Richard Klein's voice filled the room, smooth and friendly. Derek, hi. Sorry to call so late. I'm trying to reach Jen. Her phone seems to be off. There's an emergency at the office, a server issue. I really need her to come in and help sort it out. Is she around? Everyone in the room stared at the phone. Tom watched Sarah's face drain of color. Adam was making slashing motions across his throat, signaling Derek to hang up. Derek stammered. She's in the shower. Can she call you back? It's really urgent, Derek. I hate to ask, but could you have her call me the moment she's out? Like I said, emergency. Sure, yeah, of course. Great. Thanks so much. Oh, and Derek. Richard's voice changed, just slightly. Tell her I hope she's feeling better. I heard she wasn't feeling well earlier. Nothing serious, I hope. Derek's eyes met Jen's across the room. Jen had told Richard she was working late on a presentation, not that she was sick. She's fine, Derek managed. Just tired. Well, rest is important. Make sure she gets plenty. Talk soon. The line went dead. He knows, Sarah whispered. Oh God, he knows. The hotel room erupted into chaos. Adam was already packing up the laptop while Paul barked into his phone, presumably to FBI contacts. Jen had gone completely pale, trembling as she grabbed her purse. Sarah stood frozen in the center of the room, her eyes distant, calculating. How could he know? Derek demanded. We were careful. You said you were careful. We were, Adam insisted, yanking cables free. Unless, he stopped, his eyes widening. Check your phones. All of you. Check for tracking apps. Tom pulled out his phone, suddenly aware of how exposed they were. Sarah was already scrolling through her settings, her fingers moving frantically. I don't see anything. I checked last week. I've been checking regularly. Not your phones, Paul said, closing his own phone. Derek, when did you call Jen earlier? After Tom called you? Yeah, right after. And where were you? At home, in my living room. Why does that? Derek stopped. His face went slack. Oh no. What? Jen asked urgently. Derek, what? The echo, Derek breathed. Richard sent us an echo show last Christmas. A gift for his favorite team members. We put it in the living room. I was standing right next to it when Tom called, when we talked about the hotel, about you being here. And when you called Jen, Tom finished, understanding dawning. If he had access to it. He heard everything, Adam said grimly. That's how he got your number, Derek. From listening to Tom's call to you. That's how he knew to call you instead of going directly through Jen. He's been playing catch-up for the past hour, listening to everything through your home device. Sarah sank onto the bed. We were so careful. Months of planning, and we got caught because of a Christmas present. We need to move, now, Paul said. He knows you're investigating, he knows we're involved, and he knows we're meeting the FBI tomorrow. He'll either run or he'll try to stop us, Jen finished. Can we move the FBI meeting up? Tom asked. Call them tonight. Paul shook his head. I tried. The agent we've been coordinating with is in Washington until tomorrow morning. Without him, we'd have to start from scratch with someone new, and that could take days. Days we don't have. So what do we do? Derek's voice cracked. Just sit around and wait for Richard to, what? Come after us. We separate, Adam said decisively. He can't go after all of us at once. Jen and Sarah, you're coming with us to a safe location. Derek, Tom, you go home separately, act normal. If Richard or anyone from the company reaches out, you don't know anything. Jen and Sarah are sick, or dealing with a family emergency. You'll see them tomorrow. Absolutely not, Tom said. I'm not letting Sarah out of my sight. Tom, Sarah started. No. Tom's voice was steel. You kept me in the dark for months. You made decisions about our safety without me. I'm not letting you do it again. Where you go, I go. Derek nodded. Same. I'm staying with Jen. Adam and Paul exchanged glances. That complicates things, Paul said. I don't care, Derek replied. My wife is in danger because of some corporate criminal. You think I'm going home to watch TV while she's hiding from a guy who's stolen $12 million? Not happening. He's right, Jen said quietly. We should have trusted them from the beginning. Let's not make that mistake again. A knock on the door made everyone jump. All 6 of them froze, staring at the door as if it might explode. Room service, a muffled voice called. We didn't order room service, Jen whispered. Paul moved silently to the door, looked through the peephole, then turned back, his face grave. He mouthed 2 words, security camera. Adam immediately understood. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. A moment later, he held up the screen showing the hotel's security camera feed. Paul had hacked into it somehow. The hallway was empty. No room service cart, no employee. Just a voice from somewhere outside their line of sight. Room service, the voice called again. I have your order. Wrong room, Paul called back. We didn't order anything. A pause. Then, my mistake. Sorry to bother you. Footsteps retreated down the hall. On Adam's phone screen, they watched a man in a hotel uniform walk past the security camera. He stopped at the end of the hallway, pulled out his phone, and made a call. That's not hotel staff, Adam said. Look at his shoes. Tom squinted at the small screen. The man wore expensive leather dress shoes, completely wrong for someone working a hotel service job. He's confirming we're here, Sarah said. Richard sent him to verify. Which means we need to leave right now, Paul said. Take the stairs, not the elevator. We have 3 vehicles in the parking lot. We split up, take different routes. To where? Tom asked. There's a house we use for situations like this, Adam explained. Secure, off the grid. We'll regroup there, wait until morning. They gathered their things quickly, checking the hallway through the peephole before slipping out. The walk to the stairwell felt like miles, every sound making Tom's heart race. He kept his hand on Sarah's back, needing the physical connection to believe she was real, safe, still there. The parking lot was worse. Open, exposed, the yellow lights creating deep shadows between cars. They split into their predetermined groups, Adam with Jen and Derek, Paul with Tom and Sarah, and headed for separate vehicles. Tom was reaching for Paul's car door when he heard the engine. A black Mercedes SUV, windows tinted, pulled into the parking lot too fast. It screeched to a stop, blocking the exit. Get in the car, Paul shouted. But before anyone could move, 2 more vehicles appeared, boxing them in from different angles. Men emerged from each car, 4 of them, all large, all moving with purpose. Richard doesn't play small, Adam muttered, positioning himself in front of Jen. The men approached slowly, confidently. They weren't trying to hide their intentions. The largest one, clearly the leader, stopped a few yards away. Mr. Klein would like to have a conversation, he said, his voice surprisingly soft. About the materials you've collected. He's willing to make a generous offer to ensure everyone walks away happy. Tell Mr. Klein we're not interested in his offers, Paul said evenly. That's unfortunate, the man replied. Because Mr. Klein isn't really asking. The laptop, the documents, whatever you've collected, hand them over, and everyone goes home safe. Nobody has to get hurt. And if we refuse? Derek asked, his voice shaking but defiant. The man smiled, and it was the coldest thing Tom had ever seen. Then we have a problem. And Mr. Klein is very good at solving problems. Tom's mind raced. They were outnumbered, outmuscled, and trapped in a parking lot at night. The laptop containing all their evidence was in Adam's bag. If they lost it, months of work disappeared, and Richard Klein walked free with $12 million. But if they fought, people could get hurt. His wife could get hurt. Sarah gripped his arm, and he looked down at her. In her eyes, he saw fear, yes, but also determination. She'd spent months building this case, risking everything. She wasn't going to hand it over to thugs in a parking lot. Neither was he. We have a counteroffer, Tom said, surprised by the steadiness of his own voice. You leave now, And we don't add assault and attempted robbery to the charges we're bringing against your boss tomorrow morning." The man laughed. "Brave. Stupid, but brave." He took a step forward. That's when the sirens started. The sound of sirens cut through the parking lot like salvation. The lead thug's head snapped toward the hotel entrance as 3 police cruisers pulled in, lights blazing. Behind Tom, he heard Paul let out a breath that might have been a laugh. "You called the cops," the thug said, already backing toward his vehicle. "About 5 minutes ago," Paul replied calmly, "when your fake room service guy confirmed our location. We figured Richard might try something dramatic." The 4 men scrambled into their vehicles and peeled out of the parking lot, narrowly missing one of the police cars. Tom watched them go, his heart hammering, Sarah's hand still gripping his arm hard enough to hurt. 2 officers approached while a third spoke into his radio, presumably calling in the license plates of the fleeing vehicles. The older officer, his name tag reading Ramirez, looked at the group with barely concealed suspicion. "Someone want to tell me what's going on?" Ramirez asked. Adam stepped forward, pulling out a business license. "Private investigator. We're working a case involving embezzlement and corporate fraud. Those men were attempting to intimidate our clients and seize evidence." "Evidence of what?" the younger officer asked. $12 million in pension fund theft, Jen said, her voice still shaky. "We're scheduled to meet with the FBI tomorrow morning to turn over everything we found." Ramirez's eyebrows rose. "The FBI knows about this." "Special Agent Morrison, Financial Crimes Division," Paul said. "We can give you his contact information. He'll confirm everything." The officers exchanged glances. This was clearly above their pay grade. Ramirez pulled out his phone and stepped away to make a call. The younger officer stayed with them, his hand resting casually on his weapon, though Tom noticed he positioned himself between them and the parking lot entrance. "You folks okay?" the officer asked. "Anyone hurt?" They all shook their heads. Tom finally felt Sarah's grip on his arm loosen slightly. He looked at her and saw tears streaming silently down her face. Relief, fear, exhaustion, all hitting at once. Ramirez returned. His demeanor changed. "Agent Morrison is on his way. He says you're to wait here with us until he arrives. Nobody leaves." He paused. "He also says to keep that laptop secure." Those were his exact words. "Keep the laptop secure." "How did he know about the laptop?" Derek asked. "I updated him when we called 911, Paul explained. "Standard protocol when a case goes sideways." They waited in the parking lot, the police maintaining a perimeter. Tom sat on the curb with Sarah, Derek, and Jen beside them, while Adam and Paul coordinated with the officers. The adrenaline was fading, leaving Tom feeling hollowed out and strange. "I'm sorry," Sarah said quietly. "For all of it. The lying, the secrecy, putting you in danger without knowing it. If I could go back." "You said earlier you wouldn't change anything," Tom interrupted. "I said I didn't know if I would. That's different." Sarah wiped her eyes. Now, sitting here, seeing how it all almost fell apart. How those men could have hurt you because of choices I made. I would have told you everything from the start. Trusted you the way you deserved. Tom took her hand. "You were trying to do the right thing. You just went about it the wrong way." "That's a generous interpretation." "It's the truth." Tom squeezed her hand. "You saw something wrong and you tried to fix it, even when it was dangerous. That's who you are. I just wish you'd let me stand beside you while you did it." Across from them, Jen leaned against Derek, murmuring apologies that Derek kept interrupting with reassurances. They'd have their own reckoning to work through, but at least they'd be working through it together. A dark sedan pulled into the parking lot 40 minutes later. A man in his 50s emerged, his FBI badge visible on his belt. Agent Morrison looked like he'd dressed in a hurry, mismatched socks visible above his shoes, his shirt slightly untucked. "You couldn't wait 12 more hours," were his first words to Adam, but there was no real anger in his voice. "Richard Klein figured out they were investigating," Adam explained. "Tracked them through a smart speaker in Derek's house. He sent men to intimidate them and seize the evidence." Morrison's expression darkened. Did anyone get hurt? No, but only because Paul called 911 when we spotted Klein's scout. Morrison turned to Jen and Sarah. You two have caused me more headaches in the past 6 weeks than any case I've worked in my 15 years with the Bureau. He paused. You've also handed me the cleanest case against a connected criminal I've ever seen. Show me what you've got. They moved into the hotel lobby, spreading out around a table while Adam opened the laptop. For the next hour, Morrison reviewed everything: documents, recordings, photographs, financial records. His expression grew more grim with each folder he opened. This is more than embezzlement, Morrison said finally. You've documented a systematic fraud operation. The pension fund is just one piece. Look here, he pointed at a screen. He's been using employee social security numbers to open credit lines, running up debt, then defaulting. Identity theft on top of everything else. How many victims? Officer Ramirez asked. He'd stayed to observe, increasingly interested as the scope of the crime became clear. At least 400 employees, Morrison said. Plus their families. We're talking about thousands of people whose lives Richard Klein has destroyed for profit. He looked at Jen and Sarah. What you two did was reckless, dangerous, and possibly the bravest thing I've seen civilians do. Does this mean you can arrest him tonight? Derek asked. Before he runs. Morrison pulled out his phone. I'm getting a warrant right now. We'll have agents at his house within the hour, his office by dawn. If he runs, we'll have every law enforcement agency in the country looking for him. He stepped away to make calls. Tom watched the man work, watched him coordinate what was clearly a major operation, and felt the reality of the situation settling over him. This wasn't just about his wife's lies or his hurt feelings. This was about justice for hundreds of people who'd been robbed blind. Sarah leaned against him. What happens now? To us, I mean. I don't know, Tom admitted. We have a lot to work through. Are we going to be okay? Tom thought about the past few hours, the fear, the anger, the accusations, and the revelations. He thought about the years before tonight, the life they'd built together, the trust that had been damaged but maybe not destroyed. Yeah, he said finally. We're going to be okay. But Sarah, no more secrets. Ever. About anything. No more secrets, she agreed. I promise. Morrison returned, satisfaction clear on his face. Warrants signed. Teams are moving now. Klein is going to wake up to a very bad morning. He looked at the group. You'll all need to come in tomorrow to give official statements. But for tonight, go home. Try to sleep. You've earned it. They walked out of the hotel in the early morning hours, the sky just beginning to lighten in the east. Adam and Paul headed to their car, promising to be at the FBI office by 9 a.m. Ramirez and his partner wished them well, their earlier suspicion replaced by respect. Tom and Sarah stood in the parking lot, Derek and Jen beside them. For people who'd started the evening thinking the worst of each other, now bound by shared trauma and revealed truths. First round is on me, Derek said suddenly. When this is all over and Klein is in jail. We're going out, all 4 of us, and getting spectacularly drunk. Make it dinner instead, Jen countered. Somewhere expensive. Klein's probably going to owe us all compensation when the courts are done with him. They laughed, the sound brittle but genuine. Then they split up, heading to their separate cars and their separate homes, carrying the weight of the night with them. Tom drove in silence, Sarah in the passenger seat, watching the city pass by. As they pulled into their driveway, Sarah spoke. I really am sorry, Tom. For everything. I know. Tom turned off the engine. And I forgive you. It's going to take time to rebuild the trust, but we'll get there. Promise. Promise. They walked into their house together as the sun rose, ending one of the longest nights of their lives. In a few hours, they'd return to the FBI office and watch Richard Klein's empire crumble. Hundreds of employees would get their pensions back. Justice would be served. But for now, they were just 2 people who'd survived something terrible together, still standing, still holding on to each other. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was an honest one. And after a night built on lies, honesty was enough. 3 months later, Tom would watch Sarah testify against Richard Klein in federal court, her voice steady and sure as she detailed his crimes. Klein would eventually be sentenced to 20 years in prison and ordered to repay every cent he'd stolen. The company would establish a victim compensation fund. Lives would be rebuilt. And Tom and Sarah would be rebuilding too, their marriage, their trust, their partnership. It wouldn't be easy. There would be arguments, setbacks, moments when the memory of that night's betrayal would resurface. But they'd face it together, with honesty, with patience, and with the knowledge that they'd survived the worst and come out stronger. The text message that had started everything, crashing at a coworker's, "Don't wait up," would become a cautionary tale they'd share years later, a reminder of how quickly lies can spiral and how trust, once broken, requires constant care to repair. But it would also become proof that marriages can survive even the most devastating revelations, as long as both people are willing to do the hard work of forgiveness. And they were willing. Both of them. That was enough.